After finally beating this game after 21 years, there's a lot about this game that just suck. Back then and now. And it's still weird to call these games retro now because I grew up with them. But yeah, they are that old now. Okay, so the BS in no particular order. First of all, no fast travel. Every time you finish an objective, every time you put a spell stone back in the temple, you gotta go all the way back. Meaning a lot of backtracking. There's two annoying parts that you have to keep going back and forth from. That just begs the question, why wasn't there just a bridge? The game is 14 hours long, and I guarantee you a lot of that time was due to all the backtracking. Next thing, no waypoint system to tell you where the objective is. And before you mention the maps, I bought all the maps, and even the maps didn't help. They don't show the objectives on there. Man, I don't want to hear shit about Ubisoft's games anymore because you remember shit. You're not traveling blindly. Next one, sections in the game that meant automatic death. Like that BS Ice Mountain race. Now I have one question about that. Can you win that by beating the other two enemies there? By not getting them out the way first? Because back in the day, I don't remember that section being unfair, so I must have raced past them. Next one, being forced to get those rings in those brief sections. You know, the only time you play actual StarFox. Minus the final boss. It was annoying doing that over and over. Even after you unlock those new areas after you finish an objective there the first time. Also, why the hell are the rest of the StarFox crew on the cover of the box? Because they didn't do shit. They didn't help in any way when I'm on the ground doing work. They just sat on their asses on the ship, the Great Fox. Just sitting on your asses while I'm dealing with all these freaking bosses. And the only one in the squad that helped was F.L.O.O.D near the very end. Then there's the Gamecube controller itself. The second stick being the camera stick instead of another analog stick. Meaning you don't use it to control the character or to help you aim. Another thing that sucked was aiming with the left stick only. Then there are those damn gremlin bat enemy things. In fact, they're called bloops. Let me roll the clip. Those damn things. I swear, those things are just as annoying, just as bad as the Medusa heads in Castlevania. Then there's freaking time limits. They will always be lazy. It sucks not having the scarab maximum right away, being forced to just stick with a certain amount, certain puny amount. It sucked that you didn't have a blaster, no other weapons. Having to feed Tricky every freaking time. Where, what the fuck were y'all thinking with that? Next, slow ass climbing. Couldn't climb up quick at all. The trials for the 4 remaining Krazoa spirits. All annoying, especially that final one, which had a damn time limit. And if you didn't beat those trials, you had to start all over. No checkpoint at the Krazoa spirit itself. Then there's the final boss. Now, I never owned StarFox 64, but I remember the final boss there. And it was nice to see that final boss in Adventures. But you had to win the whole thing in one go, no checkpoints in between. Which meant if you died, you had to start the whole thing over. And like I said, F.L.O.O.D shows up to help you, and later rejoins the team. But I thought F.L.O.O.D was supposed to be an asshole. Again, I never owned StarFox 64 or the SNES StarFox. But one big thing I knew about this series was F.L.O.O.D being an asshole. But he was not an asshole here. And thank God for turbo controllers, because those shooting sections, having that made things a little bit more tolerable. I can't imagine how people did that by just mashing A constantly. And the last thing that sucked, the tug of war I already made a video on, because that got all of us stuck when we were kids. This game should have released as the Dinosaur Planet game that it was supposed to be. Crystal's game. Not have the StarFox name plastered on it because it wasn't StarFox. It wasn't a space shooter. On to the biggest positive of this game though, the Gamecube itself. The only time Nintendo used powerful hardware. After all these years, the game still looks impressive. And looking back, it's crazy that a Nintendo game, okay this, was cool with this design. I guess I shouldn't be surprised because Nintendo made Twin Tail. And before that, Nintendo okayed this chick, Sia from Hyrule Warriors, which was on the Wii U and the 3DS. I'm not counting Bayonetta because Nintendo pulled a Microsoft and bought that one. I almost forgot, the one downside of the GameCube, those small ass discs, which couldn't hold as much space as usual CDs, which is why their ports had to be downgraded in some way, and some games never got ported at all, like GTA 3. And lastly, when it comes to these old games, the only best way to play them is via emulators, so you'd have save states, or built-in cheat codes. The only way to have 100% fun in these old games.